What's going on, everybody? Another week of State of Bitcoin. This is week ending February 4th, 2022. We are filming this on Thursday, the 3rd. We're sitting at Bitcoin price of $36,985. I'm here with my co-host, Brandon. What's going on, Brandon?
What up? What up? Not much, living the dream out here in Florida. It was a beautiful day, 85 and sunny. So, just another day in paradise, Dan. How about you?
It is about 45 and raining here. Been raining all day, so absolutely miserable.
Sounds great. Sounds like you made the right choice to live up there, huh?
It's not too bad. I don't know. What should we talk about? Let's talk Bitcoin. I feel like last week there was so much news that this week we've had a few things come out, but it's not as popping. I feel like more people are paying attention to the general market, especially today with everything that's happened, like Amazon coming in late to save the market. Um, but let,
Yeah, exactly.
but let's talk Bitcoin. We'll start with Fidelity, and then we'll go into what ARK released too. So ARK last week and Fidelity this week both released reports on Bitcoin, and I guess we'll start with Fidelity. So Fidelity released a paper called Bitcoin First, in which the two co-authors, they're analysts for Fidelity Digital Assets, which is owned by Fidelity or is part of Fidelity, basically argue that Bitcoin should be treated separately from all their cryptocurrencies. And the paper is actually a really great. I don't know if you've had a chance to sit down and read the whole thing yet, but the paper is actually a really great, like, partially technical, partially very easy to digest overview of Bitcoin and why it shouldn't be treated as crypto, right? You and I both know this. You talk to people, someone comes up to you and asks you about crypto, and you say, well, I'm in Bitcoin. And they say, oh, yes, you are in crypto. Yeah, well, they're not exactly the same thing. So, yeah, well, they argue that Bitcoin is a superior monetary good, that it should be treated as such. And yeah, they also say that it's a great entry point for investors looking to add some exposure to the general cryptocurrency kind of area. And yeah, let's just jump into that. Did you get a chance to read the full paper or look over generally the things that were included?
Yeah, so I was able to look through it and thumb through it a little bit, and I agree with your point 100%. I think it was like super easy to digest. It's not too technical. They kind of do it in like a presentation type format, so it's not exactly like as intimidating as like here's a white paper. You know what I'm saying? To kind of like understand or anything like that. They broke it down very well, and I was honestly kind of surprised. I know Fidelity is tried to get a spot Bitcoin ETF filed and things like that. But to be honest, I kind of pegged Fidelity and all these other companies to be more of like a general crypto realm instead of like differentiating like that. So I'm for one really encouraged by this. It shows that they're not only taking a deep dive into Bitcoin and I guess the greater crypto world and whatnot, but they're also, taking the time to deeply understand both the Bitcoin technology, the purpose behind Bitcoin, and the purpose behind like I guess the other shit coins too. So yeah, I definitely recommend it. I think if you want to get somebody to read it and kind of like onboard them that way and look over it, it's not as intimidating as like handing somebody the Bitcoin standard or something like that. It's a quick thing that you could thumb through in a couple minutes, and I think yeah, I really liked it, and I thought it was really good news. And yeah, I kind of agree with your point. This week there wasn't too much Bitcoin news compared to last week, but yeah, this thing here, definitely encouraging going forward. And Fidelity looks like they want to be a player in the Bitcoin realm, huh?
Yeah, the same two co-authors. So it's funny because I don't know how many people actually work for Fidelity Digital Assets, which is their blockchain specific group. But the same two co-authors had a section in their research roundup paper that was released a few weeks ago. I think it was mid-January they released it, and they were much more 1 foot in Bitcoin, 1 foot in cryptocurrency. Talked a little bit about NFTs in that paper, and this one is specifically saying they're not saying they're all in on Bitcoin, right? But they're saying that if you're going to do cryptocurrency, like Bitcoin should be treated separately. Bitcoin should be treated as a monetary network. It shouldn't be treated as anything else. And they actually compare it to Ethereum, which is the other reason I really like the paper. So if you got people, I've sent this to a few of my family members who just don't fully grasp that Bitcoin is this different entity and that you can't treat it. They read stuff about Ethereum or they read stuff about Solana, which we'll talk about in a few minutes with the hack that they had this week. And they think that all of that is the same as Bitcoin. And so this paper does a really great job at just separating it out, saying why they think it's the best, why they don't think anything will supersede it in the future. And yeah, I think this is an awesome paper, and it is really well done. It's so easy to read, and it's right there at that edge. Like a fifth grader is probably not going to understand it, but a high school student probably would understand this thing, right? Like it's not super complicated, but it still touches on the technical aspects of Bitcoin and how it makes it different, right? They talk about the decentralization, they talk about the hard-coded supply cap, they talk about incentive-driven actions of miners and things like that. So it's right there on that edge of being a white paper versus like kind of a review paper. So I was really happy to see this. And yeah, you got anything else to add, or you want to jump to the next story?
No, let's jump to ARK. What do you got on ARK?
So this is actually from last week. ARK released their Big Ideas 2022 paper. I think they did a Big Ideas 2021 last year, where they kind of covered the previous year. So I don't know if this is going to become an annual thing for them or not, but in their Big Ideas 2022, they kind of look back on 2021 and try to project what's going to happen in 2022. They identified, I think, 5 kind of key parts of their portfolio that they're looking at. There's like AI, I think biotech was another one, or maybe it was genomics or something like that. But unsurprisingly, blockchain was one of those things. And within blockchain, they had a nice piece about Bitcoin. Again, it seems like with Fidelity, there was those 2 co-authors, and they both seem very bullish on Bitcoin. I wonder how many people at Fidelity there are that are like more into the Web3, that kind of stuff. And then I just imagine there's these 2 dudes that are like talking about only Bitcoin. So I wonder if it's the same thing at ARK, although Kathy Wood seems pretty bullish on Bitcoin too. So I would imagine there's probably more people in ARK specifically focused on Bitcoin. But anyways, this particular analyst pointed back at a few things, talked about the successful rollout of Taproot, which was one of the biggest changes to the Bitcoin protocol that they've seen since 2017. Talk about the scale up of the Lightning Network, how there's been increased channel and increased number of channels and increased usage of the Lightning Network. All of these things basically add up to Bitcoin's growing. It's able to scale. They've shown successfully that they can scale the network, and institutional adoptions at all-time highs. Obviously, El Salvador adopted it as legal tender last September, but also we saw the rollout of a few ETFs that you alluded to earlier. So yeah, institutional adoption's way up. The network is growing, so it's going to continue to benefit from network effects. And so they're very bullish on Bitcoin going forward. In fact, they say that it wouldn't surprise them if the market cap of Bitcoin scaled more than 25-fold in the next decade. So by 2032, they could see each Bitcoin exceeding $1 million in value. What do you think?
Yeah, so just overall about ARK and Kathy Wood, we saw Kathy Wood at the Florida Bitcoin and Blockchain Conference or Summit here in Tampa, and they're moving on down here. So I'm very bullish on ARK, but it's been kind of hard lately because they're getting crushed in the markets and everything like that. And the more they're kind of coming out with this stuff, the less and less I'm bullish on them to be. That might be surprising to you, but when Kathy was talking at the Florida Bitcoin and Blockchain Summit, she said when they first got into Bitcoin, they had somebody in the company who was, very bullish on it and wouldn't stop talking about it. And then now they have people coming in and they're very bullish on NFTs and Web3 and things like that. So I think that they're kind of a company that unfortunately is looking at the, I I don't even know how to word this, like the next bright spot there. They're like they're like they're running on a treadmill after something that's in front of them. Essentially, they're trying to find the next hot thing, trying to find the next thing that's going to make them rich or whatever. They're basically chasing after their own tail here. And unfortunately, like I appreciate that Kathy, what she's done for the space and everything like that. She's made it very mainstream. A lot of time, like, I feel like there's a soundbite every time she gets in front of a camera about how she thinks Bitcoin's going to be $1 million, $10 million, $500 million, or something like that. And yeah, like I said, they've always been bullish and very friendly to Bitcoin, and they're probably the biggest, investment firm that's been very vocal about Bitcoin, which is great. But I'm just very cautious on ARK these days because of after what Kathy was saying at the Florida Bitcoin and Blockchain Summit, being bullish on NFTs and other things like that. So I'm hoping that they're kind of finding their path and doing maybe I don't know if I would call it the traditional Bitcoiner route, where they get into Bitcoin, then they take a deep dive into shit coins and everything else, and then they maybe get burned or go through a rug pull or something. Then they come back to Bitcoin and then are Bitcoin only. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, like I said, I think it's good for the overall space that ARK's putting some publicity behind the Bitcoin network and Bitcoin price, I guess, too. But overall, I'm kind of wary on ARK these days, so I'm kind of backtracking my position as a big ARK guy these days.
The ARK Innovation ETF is down 51.7% in the last year.
Yeah, I know. I own it. So I'm well aware.
I'm looking at all of their ETFs, and they're all down by like 50%. The only one that's not is their space exploration, which is only down 21.5%.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, to be honest, I look like an idiot holding these things. I might just cut my losses soon and just get out of it. But yeah, I own the ARK FinTech and the ARK Innovation ETF, not financial advice, of course. And yeah, don't follow my portfolio especially on these picks, because these are very bad investments. I'm down 54% on the ARK FinTech, and I'm down 56% on the ARK Innovation ETF. So Kathy Wood, I was all in on you, and then you kicked me right in the face. So I'm sorry. But when you get kicked in the face like that, I can't keep vouching for you like that. I mean, I'm losing money out here.
So for those ETFs, for them to be down like that, I mean, it's just they're putting their money in the wrong companies. Because I think about innovation, especially in the Bitcoin space, and now I'm thinking like I'm in a couple miners, and they're maybe down a little bit. Like HUD 8's crushing me, unfortunately, but I got in at the very top of HUD 8 on some bad advice from our buddies up north. But none of the other stuff. Like I'm thinking Intel came out with this news. I'm thinking Intel's not down 50%. So I guess they're putting them in smaller cap companies maybe that they think are going to grow.
Yeah. No, they put them. I don't know. We could dive in maybe on the stock market one if we want to dive into the like direct holdings of each ETF. But yeah, I know that they of course they're very well known for going in on Tesla, and that's basically being their largest holding. But yeah, I can go to their website here and figure out what's all in their funds and everything else. So if you give me
we can save it. We could save it. We could do an entire series on just what's killing ARK's ETF right now. Like why are you losing so much money on ARK?
Oh yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, let's just hash into why I'm losing so much money. That'd be outstanding. Okay, yeah. So the ARK, here, all right, I'll go into it. ARK Innovation ETF. The number one holding, of course, is Tesla, and then it's got Tesla, Teladoc, Zoom, Roku, Coinbase, Exact Sciences, Unity Software, IntelliTherapeutics, Spotify, and Twilio Inc. So.
Well, Coinbase has taken an absolute beating over the last few months, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
I'm pulling it up now.
And
yeah, it's down 30% in the last last month, down 46% in the last 3 months. Coinbase is just bombed, dude.
Yeah, and so the fintech space, its number one holding is Square Block, which I love, but I should just get out of the ETF and just continue to buy Block. And then it's got Coinbase, Shopify, Twilio again, UPath, SEA, which our buddy at Young Money Cap broke down. He really likes that company. Teladoc Health, Robinhood, which got absolutely trashed too. I don't know how to say this, Mercado Libre Inc. and then Discovery Ltd. too. So, I mean, I don't know. Those are the top 10 holdings in each. Long story short, they have been killing me. So I can't log into my brokerage account and look at the ARK ETF because it just, brings me sadness.
All right, yeah, we'll do like a full stock breakdown of the ARK ETFs maybe in the coming weeks. I think we're gonna do Bitcoin miners this month for our equities series. But let's jump into the next thing. The next thing just came out today, so I haven't really gotten a chance to read too much into it. But there was a bill supposedly proposed that would eliminate a capital gains tax on relatively small BTC transactions. So any transaction less than $200 wouldn't be subjected to a capital gains tax. And I guess the purpose of this is to facilitate smaller transactions, make Bitcoin a better medium for exchange, right? Because at the moment, if you transfer any Bitcoin, then you're subjected to capital gains. It could be as small as $10 worth, but if you bought the Bitcoin at, let's say, 10 cents, you're going to be subjected to a capital gains tax. So I don't know how I feel about this, man. The problem is I don't really see myself anytime soon really buying things in Bitcoin. I know you and I have sent Bitcoin back and forth for a few times for various reasons, but I still don't really see myself taking my money out and buying things with Bitcoin. I'm going to get rid of the fiat while I can, to be honest. So I don't know how you feel about this.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you on that point, but I think it's, a step in the right direction as far as like Bitcoin adoption. Last week we had Arizona file for Bitcoin as legal tender. I had that super viral tweet while yours didn't do anything. I think I had like close to 700 likes and 100 retweets. So if you want to go to my, my profile at bkeys1010, little shameless plug there, go ahead and check it out because I go viral and at PVO_Dan does not. But anyway, yeah, I mean, I think it's a step in the right direction. I don't think that, maybe some smaller restaurants will start accepting Bitcoin and that'll be good for them. I think it's more so, I would look for it as bullish on like the merchant side, to say like, hey, we accept it, or maybe we only accept it under $200 or something like that. Or maybe you get a restaurant and they're like, well, we accept Bitcoin at everything. And then they're just going to pay the extra tax, when it's above $200. So we'll see. I know like Tahini's restaurant has gained a lot of popularity with our friends up north in Canada up there. And yeah, I mean, maybe we'll see it become more widespread down here for smaller businesses. It's definitely a tough time right now. I go to eat down the street at this taco place that I like, and they have a sign in the back right behind the register, just a handwritten piece of paper that says, due to inflationary times caused by COVID-19, because yeah, that's what it was caused by, not the money printing or anything else. But they've increased the prices across their menu. And, maybe they decide they don't want to, because of all this, they don't want to raise their prices too much. They want to get on the Lightning Network, reduce the fees for payments, things like that. I could definitely see it, a company like that or a small business, small restaurant do something like that. So I think overall it's bullish for small businesses. And I think, with the way Square's looking as onboarding the Lightning Network with Cash App, which we talked about last week, they could definitely become a merchant where, a small business, now that this bill is passed, if you want to accept Bitcoin, we can now make it easier on you these small businesses like the taco shop that I went to has Square. So, they could just implement that easily. So, like I said, I think it's really bullish for small businesses. I necessarily won't be doing that, but like maybe if I go to a restaurant and they accept it or something like that, I'd go buy Bitcoin right while I'm sitting there to pay them in it. It doesn't matter to me whether or not how they receive the money. I'm just paying them out in fiat in my mind. I'm not like, all right, this is a scheduled buy. I buy, every 2 weeks or every week, every day, however I'm doing it. And then I'm sending them that. I'm sending them fiat. I just converted it to Bitcoin for them and sent them that way. That's how I would view it.
I think the big part of this too is that it reduces the taxation part of it. It reduces the friction there. Because for me, a big part of anything is, man, if I buy something with it, it's technically a transaction. And then there's this, like, how much of this am I going to have to report? How do I report it? How do I even gain access to this? And you talk about Cash App introducing the Lightning Network. Well, the other thing they rolled out was a tax filing feature. And so my bet would be that at some point, or probably not even at some point, Cash App and the team at Block is probably working hard to figure out an easy way to let people report their Bitcoin holdings or their Bitcoin transaction history. So look, you're back and forth on this. If you're a real maxi, you're going to hate that this is a KYC thing. But at the end of the day, if you do want mass adoption, this is just one step along the way, right? So just reducing that tax filing friction, I think will help a lot of people. I know a lot of people I talk to, the tax thing is one of the first things they say if you ask them, what's one thing you're worried about with Bitcoin? They talk about volatility, of course, but the people that have accepted the volatility, the next thing they typically say is like, can I spend it? And if so, how do I report that? Do I have to report it? Is it trackable? Is it traceable? And the fact of the matter is, yeah, if you're on a KYC exchange, or if you're holding KYC Bitcoin, then there are companies out there that the IRS can subpoena or hire or employ to track things, and and you better believe that they're going to do it, right? Like they'll come for their money. I got a fat bonus last week that was a significant amount of weight was cut from that fat bonus because the government will always get theirs, right? So yeah, I don't know. I think you're right. I think you're right about increasing mass adoption, both through just
Sick
general
brag
use.
on the bonus.
Dude, fat bonus got a quick liposuction with the government there.
And I just want to back up real quick too. I know we use some Bitcoin related phrases here sometimes, like KYC, and that's just basically know your customer. And so what a KYC exchange is something like Coinbase or BlockFi or Celsius, whatever, where you can buy crypto or Bitcoin, what have you, but you have to enter in your information. So once you buy that, it's not necessarily private because that transaction onto the blockchain is now linked to your name and everything like that. And if a company like Coinbase or something that's public gets audited, they have to report and give all your information and everything like that. So hold your own keys and do all that kind of stuff. And privacy is a big deal, but I know that there is some benefits to having something like a Coinbase where it makes it easier to onboard people before they kind of dig into the rabbit hole as well. But just kind of wanted to back that up and explain that for a sec.
Yeah, that's a good point. If you do have a Cash App account, that you had to enter your information into Cash App, and then Cash App is the custodian of your Bitcoin. So you're technically you don't own that Bitcoin. Cash App owns it, and they're basically giving you an IOU. But then Cash App also keeps a record of all of your transactions, right? This is one of the reasons it's going to be so easy for them to help you with tax filing, is because they're going to have, if you do everything through Cash App, they're going to have that entire history. And then you'll have like a W-2 or whatever other filing forms, some 1099s, whatever you get. But it's just one of those things where if you're spending in Bitcoin, Cash App's just going to be able to say, hey, you did this much in crypto. These are the current laws related to crypto. So you have to enter these this amount here, or they'll automatically enter it for you based on the data that they have. But you're right. The know your customer, the KYC stuff, for the vast majority of people, they're just not going to be able to do the thing where they buy coins and then go to a coin join and then transfer them to a hard wallet and all of these things where they hold their own keys and they've been coin joined. So those coins are a little bit harder to trace to them. And then if you're spending them, you're going through your own node, and like the vast majority of people aren't going to be able to do that. So for true mass adoption, at least at this point in my mind, I don't see us moving to a complete non KYC environment. But I don't know. We'll see. I think yeah, I don't know. I go back and forth on it all the time with these bills. There's so many bills proposed that just go nowhere. Like part of me thinks that it's not very difficult to to propose a bill in our government, because it seems like every other day they're like, oh, a new bill proposed to do this. So I don't know. We'll see.
Well, I think it's a little bit more than, just the proposing of the bill, right? I think it's like, all right, now it's out in the news, people know about it. It's getting to places where, it wasn't necessarily there before, and you can't ignore Bitcoin. So I think it's not just the proposal of the bill. It's like, okay, well, now these people are going to have to review Bitcoin again. It's just like with all these people, filing for a spot ETF. I think there was like 7 or 8 companies or something like that filed, and they just pushed back Bitwise, spot ETF filing again, for the second time. And they just, they're going to keep having to review it until finally, then it's like, all right, well, now I understand it. They had enough time. And then, that one company that finally gets a spot ETF and gets lucky, right? So I think it's just, getting these things in there, and then maybe there's going to be a revision or a delay or something like that. But, if it doesn't, like we said, just because the bill was proposed in Arizona for Bitcoin to become legal tender doesn't mean it's going to pass. But it makes an opening to say, okay, well, it doesn't pass in Arizona, maybe Texas, Florida, Wyoming, one of these other states is like, okay, well, let us try to compete with them. We want to be Bitcoin friendly. And then it just kind of starts a snowball effect where it's like, okay, now we have more than half the states vying for this or something like that. So, we got to pass it. Or, all these states are just kind of asking for it. All these people are asking for it. And then, like we've said before, it's becoming more of a talking point with politicians. They want to get reelected. They know if they pass some of these things that, it's going to go well with the voters. It's going to go well with the Bitcoiners. So, I think it's a step in the right direction. It's not 100% there, but, things just keep moving forward, which is what, Bitcoin as a whole would love to see.
Yeah, 100%. Let's move on. This is my favorite story for the week. So, Wormhole, Brandon. I don't know if you know what Wormhole is. But Wormhole is a popular cross blockchain bridge. It was developed initially by a team at Solana or in coordination with Solana to essentially allow you to move tokens across different blockchains. All right. So suppose that you want to do something with Ethereum, but the Ethereum network is charging ridiculous gas fees or something. And so you want to leverage Solana's blockchain. You can move ETH over into Solana and vice versa, right? So that's what Wormhole is. Wormhole was hacked to the tune of 320 million US dollars, approximately 120,000 ETH. No one knows how they did it. Essentially what happened was the hackers minted their own wrapped ETH on the Solana blockchain, and then we're able to use that wrapped ETH to claim ETH. So there's essentially on the bridge a 1-to-1 ratio between these two assets, or one token and one wrapped token. And so essentially what you do is to move it across this bridge, you'd have to wrap it. And then there's a 1-to-1 ratio that's guaranteed so that when it gets over on the other side, you have the ETH. Well, now they are missing 120,000 ETH because these hackers figured out some exploit where they could mint their own wrapped ETH on the Solana blockchain. This comes, Brandon, ready for this, just less than 1 week after what network was it? The Quibbit network was exploited for about $80 million, another DeFi platform. And this $320 million Solana hack, or wormhole hack, technically, is the second largest DeFi hack in the history of DeFi, second only to the attack that happened last August, which hit the Poly network for approximately $600 million. However, that 600 million was eventually returned. So, yeah, man, 320 down the drain. Now, Solana has come out, or Wormhole rather, has come out and said that they are adding more ETH to the bridge, I guess, to reestablish that 1-to-1 ratio. But man, I mean, what's happening here? Like like 320 million gone. If it wasn't replaced, so suppose that the funding was super low or something. Just imagine. I mean, just imagine. And I don't know why the hackers decided to stop at 120K wrapped ETH. But if they could have gone up, they could have bankrupted this entire thing. And then anybody that has any funds on these would have just been wrecked, absolutely wrecked. So yeah, I don't know if you have any thoughts on this, but man, like, mess around with shit coins and you get what you get, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is pretty funny. Not, I mean, I'm not funny. I don't think it's good that, people are losing money, but the way I vision this is a lot of times, when we're dicking around on Twitter and, we're going at it and we tweet out from our GC account that we're launching an internal investigation, right? And it's just the two of us. That's how I imagine these guys are doing this. Is like, oh shit, we just got hacked. We lost 320 million. We're launching an internal investigation to figure out where this this money that just fucking popped out of nowhere and it just got taken off our platform. Oh wait, well we'll just build more ETH and put it onto the the blockchain. So then it's fine. We'll just create more money out of thin air. So I mean, like, I don't understand these DeFi tokens. I really don't. I don't like even calling them DeFi because they're not, decentralized finance is what it's supposed to stand for. They're obviously like centralized. So, it's this, and then I've seen like, OpenSea, aka Open Seized, like our boy Joey and Masa like to call them. That those platforms keep going down, and it's like, it's just like every single week I feel like there's something happening with these shit coins, and people are getting rug pulled, and it's just going to keep on happening. I mean, like, this is nothing new. I don't like seeing people losing money or anything like that, but I'm gonna have to launch an internal investigation and figure out why like all this money just disappeared from my bank account. I mean, that's basically what these people are doing. It's so fucking stupid and ridiculous. But hey, people are gonna keep buying them. We're gonna come out with the green candle token, and then all of a sudden, maybe I shouldn't even tell our secret away. But we could come up with a green candle token, print out 1 million of them, make them worth I don't know how much, and then just all of a sudden, wait, green candle token doesn't exist anymore, and we got all this money. So I mean, like, really, it doesn't make any sense to me, and I think it's just a matter of time before people kind of figure out that these shit coins aren't the way to go. These exchanges like Coinbases, BlockFi's, what have you, that have been making a lot of money off of these shit coins and the fees that they're charging for them, are going to, start to go under, and it's going to be a race to the bottom because companies like Strike and other ones are just allowing you to purchase Bitcoin for extremely, extremely low cost, are just going to keep getting bigger and keep getting more wide stream the more people get the rug pulled out from underneath them. So, it's not great. I don't like to see people losing money, but I mean, it's just like, come on, man. Like, what are you thinking?
Yeah, agreed 100%. I don't have this listed on our sheet here. The next thing I have is stuff about Arizona and Texas and Mississippi, but I do want to get your thoughts on what we're seeing with Diem right now. So Meta, formerly known as Facebook, recently announced the sale of Diem, which was originally called Libra. Man, so you've got it was Libra when Facebook owned it, and then they switched to Diem, and then Facebook rebranded to Meta. So, anyways, Meta's Diem, they're officially selling it. Diem was their attempt at creating a stable coin. It was supposed to be pegged to the US dollar, and it just got so much pushback, not only from the public, but also from regulatory bodies. Nobody trusts Mark Zuckerberg. Nobody trusts Meta. And so when they said, we're going to roll out our own stable coin that you could use in our own apps, people are like, yeah, that's probably not a great idea. So they're officially selling it. But here's the thing, Brandon. They're gonna obviously the metaverse is going to include like NFTs and that kind of shit. And they're going to need some kind of token to buy those NFTs or to do whatever. I'm going to this concert in the metaverse, or I'm going to buy real estate in the metaverse. They're going to want some kind of token, right? What are they going to use, do you think? My bet is obviously on something like Ethereum, but I don't know. Do you have any thoughts? It's pretty clear that regulators aren't going to let them have their own, so they're going to have to adopt something. We saw Jack come out and tell them they should focus more on Bitcoin. Do you think that they'll heed Jack's advice or no?
To be honest, I don't think so, but I think like they might get to the point where they have to. So, we've kind of talked about this on our stock stuff with our pal Young Money Cap. Today is actually a perfect day to talk about this because Facebook's earnings come out. They got crushed again, and they're talking about, they're blaming Apple for basically making their privacy a little bit better on their iPhones and things like that. So, Facebook can't scrape that metadata. So, but companies like Google and the other FANG stocks didn't really seem to have a problem. But hey, that's neither here nor there. I didn't write their earnings report. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things going back and forth about Facebook today. I think that they'll have to, like you said, implement Bitcoin as the payment system, but essentially like this whole metaverse thing, they're going all in. And if, there's other companies that are getting into it. I know our friend Young Money Cap has pointed out, Microsoft is building towards it and Apple is too. But, at the end of the day, those two companies have other things to fall back on. Facebook is seemingly getting deep into this, and they essentially, are losing so much ad revenue from Apple increasing their privacy that they're basically just banking it all on the fact that in the metaverse you can go walk around, and then they could just put billboards or what have you everywhere full of ads, and that's where they're gonna make money because they could just strictly monetize that. They have no middleman and they're eliminating that. But that also guarantees that, or banks on the fact that a lot of people are going to be hanging out in the metaverse, sitting around and doing all this stuff, working in the metaverse, doing something like that. And so, we've talked about this almost ad nauseum as how we don't believe in the metaverse. All these big companies keep getting into it. I just think like this is just kind of pointing out the fact that, okay, Facebook has a chink in the armor and nobody trusts them. And it's start of the demise of Facebook, in my opinion, with this quarterly earnings call. I think, if I was a Facebook holder, I'd be very worried. I'm not, obviously not financial advice, and I could be very wrong about it. But I think that, this whole metaverse thing and whether or not what to use in the payment system, NFTs in there, what have you, like at the end of the day, people are going to have to hang out in there. They're going to have to want to buy things in there. They're going to have to want to, purchase real estate, do whatever, do all that kind of things. And, at the end of the day, I think people just want to go outside and have a conversation and hang out with people. I don't think that that's lost. I'm down here in Florida and you're in Tennessee where things are fairly open. So I know, there's still shutdowns going on across the world. And that's unfortunate, but maybe the metaverse will work better in those places, for a little bit of time. But I think people are starting to wake up and be like, all right, I got the whole, going outside and not wearing a mask and doing all this stuff taken away from me for a year or so. And I don't want to, waste any of that time anymore. So I think the metaverse is kind of crock of shit. And, I think this whole Libra, DM, all this kind of stuff is just like a mute point for a company that's kind of reaching for an apple at the top of the tree. And it's never going to get there unless the apple falls right in their lap, which I don't think it's going to. So, I mean, we'll see. I'm just not very bullish on Facebook, not very bullish on the metaverse. And I don't think they're going to implement, Bitcoin in there until it's basically too late and they're going to be, trying to save themselves.
Yeah, I agree with all of that 100%. I mean, it's interesting to think if the world hadn't gone into lockdown and put people inside for so long, for 2 years, for basically 2 years, right? would they have come out with this? Like, it's interesting to think about how that changed things. Before I was in Tennessee, I was in Alabama, which remained relatively open. You've been in Florida for the whole thing. And so it's so weird to talk to people that were even in the US, that were in states that were completely locked down. Like, they actually seem much more open to these things and excited about them. Whereas people that were in states that stayed open and kind of continued as normal, most of us are like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, no, I don't want to put a headset on for 8 hours a day and wander around some weird animated fake reality is such an oxymoron. But yeah, it's interesting to see that. And it's sad too. Look, man, there's no one. Do you look up to people that sit around and play video games all day? No, you look up to people that are out doing things. The people that are out doing things, by the way, that are pushing this kind of nonsense, they're not going to be in there with you. I guarantee you. These people that are out making business moves and making money and creating things, they're not going to be in the metaverse with you. They're not, right? So, like, I don't know. I don't know. I hope it doesn't take off for the sake of humanity, because I don't think it's a good thing. I think it'll lead to people sitting in dark rooms with a headset on for hours of their life when they should be outside, getting exercise, hanging out with people, et cetera, living the way that humans are supposed to be living. But we'll see. I also 2.5 years ago would have told you that people wouldn't bend over so easily and throw masks on for their entire lives and make it part of their personal identity. But here we are. Yeah. So,
I agree with you 100%. And I think, like, we've beaten this down a good bit in, our talks on the spaces and things like that. But I think at the end of the day, people just want human connection. And if they've kind of conceded already, like, hey, I'm going to have to stay inside and I'm not going to have that human connection, what's a way to have it? We already have, people who play video games with their friends and they have the headset on and they're talking to them. And I know of people that have made like friends through through Xbox Live or something like that. And, we've made, I would say, decent friends with Joey and Len from, just on Twitter, never really meeting in person and things like that. So I think people think the metaverse might be a little bit more of a realistic thing than necessarily that, but I really don't see the use case for it.
Well,
But hey,
I'll say this first and foremost. I'll say this: Joey and Len are more colleagues. They're not really friends. They're colleagues. They stole a name from us. No, I'm joking. I like Joey and Len a lot. Joey's publicly
fuck those guys.
Joey's publicly disclosed his injury now, so I'll say, I hope Joey heals up nicely. But there's zero chance that he'll win in a foot race against either of us if he decides to show his face down in Miami for Bitcoin 2022. No, but more seriously, I mean, those people, yeah, I get it. I use video games to connect with my two older brothers. One lives they both live in different states. I won't disclose where they live, but they live in different states. And so, once, twice a month, we hop on Call of Duty and talk shit to each other while we play Call of Duty. And it's a way to have fun and stay in touch with them. But we're not spending 8 hours every day doing it, right? And you don't look up to people that spend hours upon hours playing video games every day. One of the reasons we connect so nicely with Joey and Len, and like BTC Gandalf, Bitcoin Gandalf, for example, is like, it's because we're all these people that we connect with, really, we're all grinding, man. Like, we're all working, we're all putting out shit, we're all creating things. We're not sitting around thinking about, is this ape? Is this picture of an ape cool to you guys? Do you guys like this thing? Like, how much ETH should I pay for it? Like, that's not what we're doing. We're focused on building stuff, producing content, helping others, getting others involved in the space, having conversations. That's what we're doing. And that's why we connect with those guys. And those are the guys that you end up looking up to. You don't end up looking up to the people that are eating a bag of Cheetos playing video games all night. So that's what I'll say. Hey, I gotta do this. I gotta do this really quick. I've got a chicken in the oven right now. So I'm going to give you dude, like probably 1 minute is what you have to give a closing thought on this, and then we'll do a little break, and then we'll go into our guest. So so why don't you introduce our guest? Then I'm going to go check on my chicken after you introduce him, and then we'll do some on chain.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. I will do we're also skipping some stories too, but
Oh yeah, plug your
to
story.
kind
Plug
of
your story. What a scumbag movie. Plug it.
yeah,
All
yeah,
right,
yeah.
plug your story, and then
Yeah, come
then I'll
on.
introduce our guest, and then I'll go check on my chicken. Then we'll do on chain.
All right, so there's two things that I want to say. So first is the point you made about looking up to people who sit and play video games for 8 hours. I unfortunately think you're wrong about that. I think that there's a lot of kids out there that look up to, big YouTube or big Twitch streamers. Esports is, growing in popularity, but I feel like that's like different than the metaverse. I feel like the metaverse is more like interaction opposed to like actually like playing games in the metaverse. But I could be completely wrong about it. Maybe like those kinds of games become, more widespread. But I see those kind of games where people put on like a headset and run into, run around in like a treadmill that you could turn around and shoot a fake gun and do all that kind of stuff at like David Buster's. And, there's always people playing those, but I would think nobody's going to want to play that for 8 hours, So like I said, we'll see with looking up at that. And then the other stories that we got is that the states are in the United States are kind of racing to adopt Bitcoin. Last week we detailed Arizona. We've talked about Texas last week as well, how they were basically making a how Dan was talking about how he loves academia and everything like that, how they're making a research and they're funding all this academic stuff. He's pointing to his 3 tiny degrees back there. He didn't blur them out this time, so you can tell he's really proud of them. But Texas has also been very friendly to Bitcoin miners. They have another candidate who is trying to make Texas the citadel for Bitcoin. Then we have Ohio, who has Representative Warren Davidson, who's come out and he's been dubbed the crypto congressman by Bitcoin Magazine. We both write for BTC Times, so shameless plug. So if you want the real better information, come check us out. But he's been pushing for Bitcoin to become legal tender, and he wrote even an article, an opinion piece on The Hill about how he, loves the privacy of the transactions that Bitcoin offers, and kind of compares it to cash in hand transactions. So we have Arizona, Ohio, Mississippi, and Arizona, Ohio, and Texas, and Mississippi, who now has a congressman that proposes a Bitcoin and cryptocurrency bill as well. So, we have 4 states now proposing various things related to Bitcoin and crypto, I guess. And, we've also had some state mayors, and Miami's also been very friendly, and the state of Florida has been very friendly, and Senator Loomis in Wyoming's also been very friendly to Bitcoin. So overall, very encouraging. Dan, quick thoughts before you go and get your chicken.
Yeah, I love it. I love all of it. Yeah, I mean, this is inevitable. We've been saying this since probably October or November in our spaces, where look, people in these states they're going to get fed up with the constant debasement of their currency. Even people that don't pay attention, like you and I were sitting here watching Jerome Powell come out and talk about rate raises and things like that. Even people that don't, they're going to the grocery store and they're seeing their prices go up. And if they need a new car or you go for a used car, good fucking luck, man. Good luck being able to afford it, because you're paying $40,000 for a 3-year-old car with 100,000 miles on it. So, they're seeing this stuff, and at some point they're going to get fed up with it, and they're going to start thinking about what is money? Is there a better form of it? Because this US dollar shit's not working. So it's only a matter of time. I think Texas, Arizona, Tennessee, Florida, these are the states that are probably going to go first. Ohio probably will go second. Ohio, I'm from Ohio. Let me tell you something about Ohio, without getting too political here, but just to tell you how the people of Ohio are. Ohio voted for Reagan twice, then Bush, then Clinton twice. So they went right, left, and then they went Bush twice, and then Obama twice, and then Trump twice. So people want to say that all these are red states that are doing this. Ohio's not a red state. Oh, dogs barking. Dogs barking. Ohio's not a red state. Ohio's a state with people that are fed up with politics. They've never been more fed up with politics. And so I'm not too surprised to see Ohio here, because not only are they fed up with politics, they're fed up with how politics get involved in their money, which is what's happening here. So it'll be interesting to see who the first state is to actually pull the trigger on this. But my guess would be probably Florida, if I had to guess. Probably be Florida, and then probably Texas, and then maybe Tennessee or Arizona and Ohio. So these are the states that you expect to see on the list. And don't let the people in the media tell you that these are red states doing this. Ohio voted for President Obama 2 terms in a row. So do not fall for the mainstream media when they tell you this. This is one of the things that frustrated me to no end about the mainstream media, is how they talked about the people of Ohio when they switch sides, apparently, over to Trump. Like, it's not because a bunch of people in Ohio are hardcore conservatives. They're just fed up with politics. And at the moment, they're probably fed up with how politics is getting involved in the value of their dollar. So I'm not surprised to see Ohio on this list, and I'm happy to see it. All right. Before I go check my chicken, which I need to do, I want to introduce our very special guest. We had Nick and the Canadian podcasters, the Canadian Bitcoiners podcast co-host Joey and Len on the pod on Monday, which you should check out. But this week we have a very special guest, Dan Wedge of Wedge Social. Dan Wedge, we had some back and forth with Mr. Wedge about ketchup chips, and this was particularly Brandon. Now, Wedge is a diehard ketchup chip fan. Brandon bought some ketchup chips and was not a big fan, and so these two go at it for a few minutes, and then after this interview, we'll jump back into some on-chain. So here is our interview with Dan Wedge.
Whoosh.
Bing bong. What's up, everybody? We've got a special guest today, Dan Wedge at Wedge Social. And we had a bit, I say we, it was really Brandon tweeting from our account, had a little back and forth with Mr. Wedge here about ketchup chips, which I had never even heard of, but are apparently a I don't know, like a common cuisine in Canada. So I'm going to let you two work this thing out. I was completely uninvolved in the argument. So Brandon and Dan Wedge, take it away.
Yeah, so yeah, we Wedge and the Green Candle account and my personal account have been interacting back and forth. I don't know, for the past couple of days. So we have just a little backstory. We have a relationship with the Canadian Bitcoiners podcast. If you know us, you probably know that, we tweet back and forth. We've been on that podcast and everything like that. And I guess to my surprise, ketchup chips are deemed by some Canadians as a national treasure, and others hate them. And I've never really, like Dan said, I never really heard about them down here in the United States. So Dan Wedge here at Wedge Social, he told me that I needed to try them, and I looked everywhere. I couldn't find them anywhere, and I had to go, and I think I had 2 options: Old Dutch or Lay's. So I had to buy a giant box of Old Dutch ketchup chips, and I did a hungover review after Gasparilla here in Tampa, and I believe I gave them a 2.4. They were atrocious. But, I'm here to hear Wedge's point. He said he did some boots on the ground research. I saw his tweet earlier today. You can talk a little bit about that research and what all went into it, and let's get going. Try to prove me wrong. I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of seasoning on it, and the chips are all right. The seasoning is just way too much, and it's just, I don't know. It tastes like 10 times worse than a normal barbecue chip. That's the only thing I could kind of compare it to. So Wedge, show me the light on these ketchup chips, please, because I have two bags full of them and I need to eat them.
All right. Yeah. I don't know what to say about them. First of all, thanks for having me on here. But the ketchup chip, I found out it's you either love it or you hate it. It's pretty much like a salt and vinegar chip, but a little bit more vinegar. I don't know. It's just something else. Oh man. See, like the face just says it all. And I'm sorry, tell you what, if you want, I'll send you the Stoshis for what you paid for them. You know, because like
no, it's fine. It was worth the content. It was not bad on Amazon. If anybody wants to buy them in the US, they're like $12 but you know what? You might get some stale chips that are sitting there. It's a big ass box.
Yeah, no, like immediately one of the guys at work was like, you got to get the Lay's ones. I'm like, they're only limited time. Like I've got one, maybe 2 bags left. I hoard them. Like I'm a ketchup connoisseur for the chips. And then also, like, I don't know if you know, but like, furthermore, the ketchup patriot's actually a big thing in Canada. Yeah.
What is a ketchup patriot? What is this?
So
do we just need to stop shipping you guys tomatoes and potatoes? Like, what are you guys doing up there?
That was the whole point of it. They Heinz shut down a tomato plant in southern Ontario, and a Canadian company made it in, and they ended up taking like 5% out of Heinz's pocket in the like whole country sales. And like it was a big thing. Like chains were switching over to using like, you know, French's ketchup instead of Heinz. I don't know if I can use their names on whatever. But yeah.
Heinz, send us a check.
Yeah. Maybe better ketchup chips for you. I don't know. But yeah,
better ketchup chips. There's got to be better chips than this. I swear.
What would you eat then? Like what's the? Oh, I'm reaching for this as they're tossing the ball.
So I'm like a Miss Vicky's guy. So I'll get the jalapeno, the salt and vinegar, and then you know every now and then if I want to mix it up a little, bingo bango. I'm a big barbecue chip guy too. I like the Lay's. Sometimes if I'm trying to feel healthy, I like those you know the reduced fat, the 30% ones, those ones at the Subway or something like that. But you know I like chips. I like the crunch. It's just this one. To be honest, it's way too much of the seasoning. It gets everywhere. I brought 4 paper towels just to sit here and just eat these on camera.
But what's the seasoning? What's the seasoning though? Is it like tomatoey? Like
it's bread. It's like
look at this thing.
Yeah,
for those who are just listening to the audio, yeah, it stains your fingers like bad.
Oh man!
Like I've licked my finger. I already used a full paper towel. I've eaten like 5 chips.
Wow! Like it's good outside barbecue stuff, like nostalgia. I don't know.
Yeah, I gotcha. So it's like from what my understanding, tell me if I'm wrong. It's kind of like a thing you eat when you're a kid, and it's like you get the nostalgia factor in there. It's almost like a Chef Boyardee ravioli, which I had hung over the other day, which was a little bit better than these ketchup chips. I'm not gonna lie to you, not great, but it was a little bit better.
Yeah, it's along the same kind of lines. Yeah, it's got that kind of tomatoey thing, but like my kids call them Canada chips. Like we eat them only in the summer. Like don't ask me how or why, but like they're just like bright fire engine red, and they get over everything. So
oh yeah, I mean it makes sense. All right, so tell us about this tweet you had where you went boots on the ground research. How many people said that they love ketchup chips, and how many people hated them? How did you conduct this poll? What kind of research went into it? And what drove you to go to bat for ketchup chips and become the national spokesperson for ketchup chips?
So the poll is just like I work in a parts department in one of the big 3. So we've got just a counter on the back, and the guys just throw random questions like it wouldn't have been out of the blue kind of thing to see worse questions like that. So I just toss that out there. I'd say 95% of the responses are from one guy. I didn't actually put more than one check, but yeah, so like it's a love or hate kind of thing. And then I have no idea, like you see the people dipping chips in ketchup, I don't know what that is at all, but we'll leave that if you want to go in and see more about that.
I'll say two things about this. First of all, the 95% from a single person makes me think that you wrote down 95% of those answers. And there were, were roughly 100 responses, it looks like. So maybe 5 other people, maybe 4 other people.
Yeah, there's probably 10 guys. Like there was one other guy in the shop who was like, yeah, ketchup chips. Like you can see his writing all over the place there. But no, I didn't cheat on that one. It was just like, it just proves the fanaticism of it. It's either all or none.
So I'll say this. Like at least in the US, we dip our. I know in Canada, you guys just smother your French fries in gravy, but in the US, it's very common to dip French fries in ketchup. Very, very common. What we dip our chips in, though, 9 times out of 10 is what is it, Brandon? It's like a sour cream and onion dip. dip,
Yeah,
right?
I mean, like it's hard to say though, because like we do like, I mean, Tex-Mex is very popular in the South, Southern United States, and that's, I mean, it's not ketchup, but it's salsa, so it has tomatoes. It's just not like as sweet. So I don't really see I guess the drive or the pull to this whole ketchup chip movement, but I guess to each their own. I thought they were terrible. I would never order these again, but I guess like you said, they're Canada's chips. I haven't had poutine before, to be honest. I'm also lactose intolerant, so I can't eat the cheese, and the gravy would probably kill my stomach. So I don't know. I don't know if I'm all in on these Canadian cuisines. I mean, in the United States, there's one thing that we do know, is that we do know our junk food. I mean, if you just look at our numbers here, like you can't doubt the U.S. knows junk food. So, all right, enough with these ketchup chips. Wedge, tell us a little bit about yourself. We started interacting with you recently. I think you've probably found us through the Canadian Bitcoiners guys. Tell us how you got into this, how you got into the Bitcoin realm, and how you, I guess, how you got your Twitter game started.
All right. I don't know. Real quick, I've been trading forever in the stock market. I got burnt eventually after about 08. That was fun. That was a good learning lesson. But beyond that, kind of got into social media. I was running it in Calgary for a while. That's kind of like above Montana for anyone who's kind of listening in the greater US. I don't know if you guys know where Calgary is. But anyways, so kind of did a lot of social media that way. Got a big handle, but then saw a different opportunity, flew across country, and kind of went dormant for 5 years. Heard about crypto somewhere in there, but like I said, had been burnt pretty bad, so I wasn't going on any more volatility. And so I just kind of, sat back and did very, very kind of basic stuff as far as my investing went. And then in March, kind of saw, this Bitcoin thing again going, and I had to kind of get into it, see what it was all about. I tossed, a couple $100 at it just to see, like a vending machine I found around the corner kind of thing, and started learning. And that's kind of where I kind of got to. And then, found you guys through all the listening I do and everything through the Canadian Bitcoiners and et cetera. The Friday nights, I listen to you guys while I'm cooking dinner, having a beer. It's great stuff. So honestly, I'm listening to you more for your stock tips more than anything else, or at least your analysis, because I don't have time for that, and it's really easy read, and I appreciate it. So that's kind of where I'm at and where I found you guys.
Awesome, man. That's a cool story. You don't have to get into any specifics, but I'm just kind of wondering. This is going to go on our Bitcoin pod, so we'll talk about kind of the macro. You said you got burned in 08. Do you see any similarities between the macro environment now and what we had in 08? Brandon and I were both. I don't know, Brandon, how old were you? I was young, man, in 08. I was not even in high school yet.
We were in high school. Yeah.
I was
a freshman in high school. Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously we weren't trading and probably weren't paying attention to the macro environment outside of how it affected us in our own households. So do you see any similarities between the current environment and what we had back then? I know, there's a lot of people saying that we're in asset bubbles. What do you think?
I don't know. Like, it was my first, like I was investing in oil and diamond, small cap stuff in Canada. And so like, as a Canadian, it's absolutely wonderful to watch our dollar be just horrible and sell you guys stuff. It's wonderful. It's great arbitrage. It's fantastic. Now where I'm at, I'm like, I'm pretty much next to the States, and it's not as fun when I have to go across and do stuff. I like that more parity. But yeah, back in the day, just previous to that, when everything was ripping, it was really fun just to kind of see that going through. But yeah, I kind of held on to everything at the end of it and just kind of went through it. It was good learning. Got bought out and kind of just sat out for a while. As far as what I kind of see going on now, I think it's just jitters. I don't know. I don't see any big movements. I think we might see something a little bit more from the Fed on your guys' side, but I can't see it happening. Like everyone I talk to, like they're on their edge of their mortgage if they have one. And I can't see in Canada or down with you guys anything really changing with that. Like I think it's going to be a delicate dance, and I don't know where it's going to end up going, but I don't see the same similarities because it was a sudden halt way back then. I felt like.
Yeah, I mean, we've kind of talked about this a couple times, but I think Bitcoiners who follow the stock market are kind of in this weird place, because at least on Twitter and a lot of the FinTwit people that I interact with think that that they seem to believe that the Fed knows what they're doing and that they're going to figure this out, and it's not as inflationary as a lot of the Bitcoiners believe it to be. Being somebody that's coming from that profession, but kind of found your way into the Bitcoin realm and Bitcoin Twitter, obviously, at least the weeds of it where you found us. Are you kind of seeing that where you're, some maybe of your former colleagues or people in the industry that are kind of thinking one way, and that people that you're listening to on whether it's our spaces or wherever else you get your Bitcoin related stuff are thinking another way?
Sorry, man, you broke up about halfway through there. Okay. I got like I missed the whole front of half the question. Sorry.
All right, yeah, I'll get it in real quick. But basically, I was saying that we've noticed that a lot of people on the financial Twitter see the Fed as like somebody that they know what they're doing and they're going to find their way out of it. They don't believe that necessarily this inflation is affecting the stock market as drastically as maybe a lot of Bitcoin Twitter thinks. And as you've kind of have an interesting outlook on it, where you used to trade equities and things like that, and you found your way into Bitcoin. Are you noticing that a lot of your former colleagues or friends that you knew in the industry or what have you are thinking one way about it, whereas like Bitcoin Twitter and everywhere else is thinking another way?
Yeah, like I don't know. I feel like a lot of the guys I'm talking to are much more optimistic on what's kind of going on. I'm with you on the inflation. I don't see it going, like, I don't know. Like the safer stuff, you're barely getting 7%, so you're breaking even at the end of the year, and you're trying to work for it. It's not making any sense. But I don't know. I think that this kind of hiccup here, whatever you want to call it, I don't think that it's going to be the last one, but I don't think it's going to be the end of this. I think we're still, still number goes up a little bit, whatever that means to you.
Yeah, I think it was Masa on our spaces last week who was saying to even get that 7%, you basically have to, to do a ton of research in your spare time. You basically have to be a professional trader to get that 7%. That's not what it's supposed to be, right? Like, you're supposed to have your job. You're supposed to earn your money once, not twice. And at this point, it's like you got to earn your money and then you have to invest it. And you really can't even just track the Qs or anything like that anymore. You can't even put it into an S&P tracker to beat inflation. You need to basically be a professional trader in your spare time, which is difficult. Like, it's interesting to maybe people like us, but to a lot of people, especially people with families and their own 9 to 5, they don't want to come home and spend hours looking at companies and breaking down the most recent quarterly reports and things like that. So it's interesting times, at least in the US. Brandon and I talk about this all the time. We're coming up on a midterm election year, and we don't see them letting the market tank in 2022. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. But Dan, man, thanks so much for joining us. I want to kind of wrap this thing up, but I want to give you one last chance. If you had to tell anybody why we should be eating ketchup chips, just like a quick 1-sentence thing, why you should eat ketchup chips, go for it.
They're simply the best chip if they're your thing, man. Like, that's all you got.
Wow. I thought he wasn't going to have anything, and I was going to say this silence is deafening, but he came with it. All right. Hey, Dan, thanks so much for joining us. Tell people where they can kind of find you. I know we've got your Twitter page linked here on your screen, but anything else you got going on? You got any kind of content you're putting out? Just go ahead and plug it.
Yeah. Best place to find me is Wedge Social on Twitter. On the side, I'm starting to do some, gardening stuff. If you're interested in that, ask me about it. But other than that, don't worry about that. But yeah, Wedge Social is the best place to do it. And again, thanks, guys.
Oh no, Wedge, thank you. You've been very generous with your time, and we look forward to interacting with you more. We can definitely get you up on the Friday spaces, and I will not be eating any more ketchup. The only time I'm going to eat these ketchup chips now is like when I'm interacting with you, just because I have to get rid of them, or else I'm going to waste all these. The Canadian national treasure is going to go stale in my pantry over here.
Oh man, just get rid of them. I don't want to see you in pain every time.
I think the people love the pain.
And we are back. All right. Hope you enjoyed that interview with Wedge. I think he's completely wrong. I've never tasted a potato chip, but I can tell you this much. They look disgusting. And I have eaten a full tomato, as everybody knows. They saw it on Twitter, which is much more difficult, by the way, Brandon, than eating a few ketchup chips. I'll just tell you that. So the guy that does it all for content has not eaten a full tomato, and I have. But yeah, all right. What do you think? That was a good interview, huh?
Yeah, I mean, Wedge very strongly opinionated on his ketchup chips. You didn't have to eat those ketchup chips hungover. You ate a small cherry tomato while drunk. So I mean, yeah, if you want to say you're dedicated to the content, go ahead. Like, you probably won't do the cinnamon challenge or anything like that for content. So I'm just throwing some ideas out there for you next time, like our spaces don't pop off, and it's 100% your fault. But yeah, Wedge, Potato Wedge Social, he's a good guy. He comes at us left and right on Twitter. So if you want to see us banter back and forth, go ahead and give him a follow at Wedge Social.
You know what I did actually? When I was in high school, I did is it 8 saltine crackers or 6? I can't remember, but I did the saltine cracker challenge, and I actually completed it.
I don't know how many crackers it is, to be honest.
I think it was 8. I think I ate 8. I think I ate 8 of those saltine crackers in a minute.
Let me see. Saltine challenge.
And it was bad. I mean, it was tough. It was really tough, but I powered through.
Oh, I'm sure it was tough. Yeah. It is 60 seconds to eat 6.
Oh, so maybe it was 6
without drinking it. Yeah. So at least that's what it says on Wikipedia. You can trust everything on Wikipedia.
All right, let's jump into some on-chain. I don't have much on-chain. Obviously, price is still low. The one thing I did want to talk about was that difficulty for mining was way up, all-time high actually for difficulty. Of course, if difficulty is high and price is low, the miners are getting absolutely screwed here. So yeah, I did just want to touch on that. I don't know. To be honest, Brandon, the on-chain stuff I haven't really looked at too closely this week, just because. Well, as soon as you get, you just start getting into this. As soon as you're DCA and you stop really caring about this stuff. But let's take a look at
Yeah.
SOPR.
Yeah, and the price has been, like we said last week, the price has been kind of stagnant. I know you're talking about the difficulty rate for Bitcoin miners. I'll tease our other show, the Sunday Scaries Stock Talk. We're going to be releasing that in audio and video form. So if you're catching us on YouTube, it's in the same channel. If you're catching us on your favorite podcast player, we're going to have a completely separate podcast. So if you go to our Twitter or something, we'll tweet it out. So follow us at Green Candle IT to check it out there. But yeah, we've been kind of just floating around this region of 38, 37 to 44. Yeah, I just think it just seems like there's one big move down, and then it's just kind of like been a slow climb back up, and there hasn't really been the big giant 10% days, 10% plus days that we're used to seeing in Bitcoin bull runs. So that makes it difficult to kind of get excited about these on-chain metrics. It's kind of like, well, it's the same thing. There are some encouraging things that we've been seeing. I know, we've been detailing SOPR, showing that not a lot of people are losing and getting wrecked, and selling off and losing a lot of money. So, I think like we've said, one, we don't have the bigger tier metrics, and two, it's just kind of floating there. There's no big moves going. If it's going up, it's always fun to watch. I mean, I like to watch it, and when we have this group message going too, that if Bitcoin goes up like a 2% in a minute or something like that, we're all like, oh shit, let's go check it out. And usually it kind of levels off and goes back down to, that's just kind of how it's been going.
Dude, that pisses me off so much because it'll jump up. So like I said, I don't even really look at the price that much anymore. And I'll get a message in that group that's like, oh, Bitcoin's popping off, and I'll pull it up and it's up like $800. And I'm like, guys, this is well within the error range of it just going up and down. So, I'm hoping that I'll open it. It'll be up $3,000. And the other thing too, though, Brandon, is does it really matter anymore? Because even if it's up $3,000, yeah, I get to pat myself on the back, but I'm not selling to take profit. So I don't know. I just keep stacking. And the more I do, the less I'm interested in a lot of these on-chain metrics. Some of the stuff I am interested in is the mining stuff, just because, God help me, if I get a house, I might be thinking about getting a miner. I don't know. I gotta get a full node running before I jump into mining. And I obviously need a house. I can't be in a rental with a miner going. I got two neighbors that probably wouldn't be happy about it. But
yeah,
I don't
they
know,
wouldn't
man.
be happy about your miner in your house, huh? All right, Epstein.
I'm not in downtown Manhattan in a mansion that I bought for $100. I don't know. The on-chain stuff. Well, I don't know. Our audience probably knows this by now. Brandon, you're a data analyst, and I'm a data analyst, data scientist, and the data is one thing, but when you've got this much stuff going on off-chain, when you've got countries adopting it like El Salvador has, when you've got constant US politicians talking about it, when you've got athletes taking it as salary, when you've got all of these things going on, it's hard to look at the on-chain stuff and be like, oh, this is what's really important. Of course, you can look at it and try to make predictions, but at the end of the day, when you're trying to roll out a new monetary system, yeah, you want to know what the volume is and things like that. But you also want to know what's the political landscape like, what's Russia doing? Russia's central bank said that they should ban it, and Putin came out and said, no, we're not doing that actually. That's the important stuff to me. So even as a data oriented person, I'm starting to care a lot more about the off-chain stuff. And I'm starting to think, especially at this moment in time, that's what's most important.
Well, yeah, it just kind of goes back to, what Warren Buffett says is at the end of the day, they evaluate companies and they try to get it at a cheap price and things like that. But they look at the underlying fundamentals of the companies. Like, is it a good business, right? So that's kind of how I look at Bitcoin, is like, what are the underlying fundamentals of Bitcoin, right? We have all this great off-chain news going on, and everything that is going around Bitcoin is seemingly blowing up. It's just the price isn't necessarily reflective of that just yet. And that's fine, because I have strong conviction in my investment, and I think that over time it's going to pay off for me. So like you said, I think like worrying about the price right now, it's like, you invest in Apple like right before the dip or right before the COVID crash or something like that, right? Apple's going to come back, and I'm sure, I don't know, I don't have the chart in front of me, but I'm sure it's done well before, you know, well before it's like March 2020 days. So, um, it's the same kind of deal, and that's kind of how I view it, right? Is like, all right, the price might not necessarily be exactly where I think it should be right now, but at the end of the day, it's gonna get there. And I have a long time horizon on this. I'm not day trading it. I'm not trying to get in or out or anything like that. So it's gonna take time, and maybe it takes a little bit longer than I thought. And I guess if that happens, so be it. But I think I still believe in the investment, and nothing's changed on that. So I agree with you 100%. Unless you got anything else you want to wrap.
I'll say one more thing, and then we can wrap it up. Last week on our spaces, or maybe I think it was last week on our spaces, we were talking to obviously a bunch of people, but Masa, our buddy Masa Capital, brought up the point that you shouldn't have to earn your money and then go home and spend hours trying to figure out how to invest your money so that you can keep up with inflation, right? You shouldn't have to earn your money twice. You should earn your money, and then you should expect that that money is going to keep its value over time. The US dollar is not a way to do that. And so one of the great things about Bitcoin that I'm just realizing while we're sitting here talking about this is like, I hourly cost average into Bitcoin, and I don't even think about the price. And that you DCA into it. I'm pretty sure I don't want to dox your buying strategy, but we buy into it because we're thinking long term. We're thinking next decade, 2 decades out into the future, and so we're not worried about the price movement. We believe in this thing 100%. And look, if the US dollar was a strong store of value, we'd be doing the same thing. We'd just be holding dollars. We'd be putting it in our savings account the way that we're DCAing into Bitcoin. And so I don't know, it just kind of hit me out of nowhere. I'm about 6 beers deep and just reminiscing on our spaces from last week. I think you're cutting up a few of the spaces conversations now, and those will be available to you soon. But yeah, it's interesting to think about. Yeah, the stronger you believe in it and the more you just DCA into it, the less you care about this on-chain stuff. And you're just sitting here basically thinking, unless you're looking to smash buy, if you've got some metrics, you say, oh, if this dips down here, then I'll smash buy a little bit more. I'll up my DCA or whatever the case is, which is a perfectly reasonable approach. But yeah, man, it's like, I'm happy where I am. I'm not going to change my buying patterns. So, all right, let's wrap this thing. It's been especially with Wedge talked for like 20 minutes about potato chips. By the way, comment down below if you want to see Wedge as a repeating guest. And you don't even actually have to comment, because we're going to have him on as a repeating guest. He's going to be our boots on the ground chip connoisseur. I think he actually described himself as a chip connoisseur. So Dan Wedge will be our potato wedge chip connoisseur. He'll be on every few weeks for a when the chips are down, boots on the ground chip review or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he was a great guest. We appreciate Wedge for his time. I think he stepped away from tucking in his kids and was just whispering on his phone too for a little bit of it as well. But he also conducted a live interview or a poll in his office on ketchup chips as well. So we detail everything on that. I mean, this guy, he does it all for content too. So yeah, I loved having Wedge on and look forward to having him back in the future. But yeah, I'm Brandon. This is Dan, co-founders of Green Candle, co-hosts here. We're coming to you live every week in the state of Bitcoin. Maybe we'll mix in another bonus episode here or there during the week, but every Friday we'll drop these. where we'll detail on and off chain news. Subscribe to our newsletter where we're writing about all this stuff, maybe a little bit more in depth. We're linking to some of the articles and things like that at greencandle or at greencandleinvestments.substack.com. And then follow us on Twitter and Instagram at greencandleit. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast player. Give us a 5-star review. Join us on the 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time Friday Bitcoin Happy Hour Spaces. Join us on the Tuesday night 8 p.m. Eastern Time stock market spaces. What else am I missing, Dan? We got a lot going on. We're putting out a lot of content. Just follow us, and you can find out what we're doing.
Yeah, it's getting hard. It's getting hard to remember all the shit you have to plug at the end because we're doing a ton. Hey, we're grinding it out for the culture, for the listeners, for the fans. We're here for the fans. You know, we're not going to be pulling our content off of any of these platforms. In fact, we're expanding. We're going on to every platform. Yeah. So I don't know. I think the best way to follow us is just hit us up on Twitter because we post everything on Twitter. That's our main outlet right now. And we're going to try to get a little more active on Reddit too. Hey, if you know anything about Reddit, hit us up because we're trying to figure out Reddit and we're having a hard time. People are kicking us off because we're promoting our own content. So if you are I wish, Brandon, that Dan Wedge was a Reddit connoisseur instead of a ketchup chip connoisseur. If he would have just directed his time and efforts into something a little more valuable, I think we could have really made use of him. But instead, we're just sitting here using him for chip content, which is maybe a waste of effort. I don't know.
The chips are down.
Hey, when the
All
chips,
right, let's roll out.
Yeah, let's wrap it up. All right, hey, follow us on Twitter most importantly. But while you're here on YouTube, give us a like, subscribe to our channel, click the bell, leave a comment, and yeah,
these ketchup chips are fucking disgusting.
Yeah, and if you're watching this Friday before 4:30 p.m. Eastern, jump on the spaces at 4:30 p.m. Eastern. It's going to be an absolute banger. All right, Brandon, I'll see you next week.
Later, boss.